and working to dig her out. Well, then Jean starts yelling, "My son is over here, my son is over here." And there was just this mound of rubble. And so Brad and I left Alexander because there were 6 or 7 men working to dig her out, and we went up to help Jean find his son. And there was no sign of him. And there was this huge piece of either the ceiling or the wall laying on top of him. And so we start moving this stuff and trying to get under there. Well, it turned out he wasn't there, thank God. He was sitting there doing his homework before the earthquake, but when it started, he ran out the door. And he was safe, but that was the last place Jean had seen him, and he feared that the wall had come down on him. So once that was over, they got Alexander out, we found Jean's son. So then I turned back to the group and I said, all we have are the clothes on our backs. I'm going back in to get our stuff. And Haldor, who's from Iceland, he says, "No, you cannot go back in there." And I said, "Step aside, Haldor." So I got Laura and Kelly, and I told them, "You guys kind of stay by the stairs here," and I went up and went to the second floor first, found everything. I'm tossing it over the railing to Laura and Kelly, and they're getting it downstairs, and then I went to the third floor. And that's where Laura was. And I saw in her room, she was taking a nap when the earthquake started, and her wall began to collapse, but the bricks went out. And when they went out, the boards from the ceiling came down, and they hit her in the head. Had the bricks collapsed in, she would have been covered. But they went out. In the corner was all of her things, and I had to dig her things out because the rubble from the top had come down on her stuff and missed her by less than a foot. When she got up to get out, the big giant armoire in her room collapsed in front of her. Dust she couldn't see. She tripped over that, but one step it would have come down on top of her. So I'm seeing this as I'm getting our things. So I bring everything downstairs. Brad, when the earthquake happened, he had just stepped out of the shower. He was naked. And when I go to Trinity Seminary, I'm going to tell this story, So Brad had a dilemma. When the earthquake happens, conventional wisdom would say get out of the room, but Brad had a dilemma. So he began to try to get dressed in the earthquake, right? So he's trying to put his pants on while the ground is shaking. And had he been dressed and left the room, the whole wall opposite his room had collapsed and come down, and he would have been buried. Little things that we can't explain. So we get all of our things except for 3 people's because the wall across from Brad is where 3 of our folks were staying, and that whole side just collapsed. Couldn't get in there to get their things. So we got our stuff, and we go back up to meet our team. While we were doing what we were doing, and I took that photo on our way up, and it's difficult to see, but I'll show you better ones. Mike, you can just start scrolling through. When we went back up to meet our team, while we were doing what we were doing, they were standing in the square as people brought out loved ones on doors and laid them in the square, begging someone to help. And they watched people die in front of them. Watched them die. And it was very traumatic for them. And with crush injuries, there's nothing you can do. Had we had doctors there was nothing they could have done. So it was very difficult. So we got up to the hill with them. Then we went over to Trinity House. We went actually to the city square outside City Hall, went to Trinity House. We're walking the whole time. And then we went to the airport. And these are photos of the morning. We got there in the dark, so photos I took didn't take. But these are morning photos of the crowds of people, thousands of people staying at the airport out on the ground. There's some UN tents. They were providing some medical care inside those tents. Very mild, not serious medical care, just like scrapes and those kinds of things. You see the people just nowhere to go. We just gathered in the airport. and we're there. And there were no tents or anything, because what you've seen on TV lately, hold that photo, Mike. What you've seen on TV lately is people have had time to get things to build tents. When it first happened, we're just out under the sky. I mean, there were no tents, nothing to cover with. This is an entire family that was near us at the airport, and you see how large the family is, and they lost everything. Lost everything. That's us sitting on the ground, nothing to do. But eat bread and mamba, which is peanut butter. Just crowds. I apologize for how dark these appear. I think it's the projector more than the photos. There's another family, lost everything. I helped that man put his umbrella up. And then here's a woman with her child. And this, I love this photo. This is the Haitian spirit. This is a family who's lost everything. None of them have shoes except for the one little daughter. And they're being silly and laughing. And as we sit at the airport, I took their photo. They were wonderful. So now, okay, don't judge me. This is the hotel called Cap Limondou that the UN put us in when they picked us up from the airport. They took us to Cap Limondou. It's the finest hotel in Jacmel. It's also the only one left standing. So we had beds, we had nice accommodations, but they ran out of food on Thursday. They ran out of water on Friday. On Thursday or Friday, when Verbeau's sister cooked for us, she made us rice and beans and some chicken and brought it to us. The hotel workers came to us and said, "May we eat too?" Because they had no food. No supplies were coming in and out of Jacmel. This is just a little fishery that's down below the hotel. Keep going, Michael. There's better pictures here. That's looking back toward Trinity House. That's Maya in the foreground here. That's Trinity House, right there where Mike's pointing. You'll see the soccer field. That's where we were staying, out on the soccer field initially, and they moved us for fear of tsunami. You can see a tent on the soccer field there on the right. People having to live outside. That's more of just Bay of Jacmel, our hotel. Okay, so Thursday. We went for a walk back through Jacmel to see things, because when we were there it was dark, and then we were at the airport, and then they took us to that hotel. So we decided for our own healing we needed to see. We needed to see what we had been through. So these are photos. Mike, just start scrolling. This is Jacmel. Just unbelievable. And remember, I told you I had never seen it so clean. There was no rubble. There was no garbage. We stopped as we walked to talk to Haitian people to hear their stories. See that house? There was a house in front of that totally collapsed, and now that one's coming off that wall there, off the ledge. People told us their stories. This man is a pastor, and he was telling us that how God is good and how God builds life, and that if you're living, you have hope. If you're alive, you have hope. And so, just remarkable. You see how Haitian people came around us to just visit and talk. We were completely safe. There was no violence. You know, you see on TV people being violent. That, you know, in Jacmel there was none of that. Zero. You know, buildings, sides of buildings just fall off. That's our. I think we're getting down to the hotel area here. And yeah, this is our hotel. That's the back of our hotel. See where part of the wall, where that hole in the wall is, that's where the stairs are on the inside. So the stairs were covered with all of that rubble, just covered on the stairs. That's what Laura fell there trying to get out. She was in her bare feet. And these are just images. This is inside the hotel. That's the bar and restaurant area. There's the bar. We were sitting there 45 minutes before, talking. Okay, go back, Mike. See that door? That's a door on the first floor to one of our rooms. It's covered 3/4 of the way with rubble. So Jared Witt and Haldor were to be in that room. Brad is across the hall. That's the hallway. Had Brad come out of his room, it would have come down on top of him. And it's 5 feet, 5+ feet of rubble. So he would have been at the bottom of that.